Hi everyone and welcome to another of my videos. Okay, about the job of the clearance officer on cruise ships. Before we begin, about the video, what's the content? So I'm gonna try to actually describe the benefits, the job itself, the duties, requirements for the job, and of course the salary and all these things. Shortly about myself and my relevance. Well, I actually have worked as a receptionist and did other jobs as well, and for several cruise lines. So I worked as a clearance officer as well, with many of them. So I know slightly bit what they actually do. However, I still actually do my online search whenever the video is coming out, or I'm writing an article for my website. And of course, I actually contact my prior colleagues for them to help me out and just to know what the job is, to actually know from a person who is doing it. And this is not the exception, I've did it as well. So this is not to rub your face how many jobs I have scored, it's just to say it's created by the crew and for the crew itself, for some who is going to be becoming crew. Right, requirements. So they usually, what they do is they actually like to take the receptionist as a clearance officer, and just to step up, which is a step up of course, because it's actually is a part of the guest services or reception, and this is dealing with the guests as well. So it's usually they actually look for somebody at the receptionists who want to actually step up as clearance officer, and of course they actually prefer the cruise ship experience as well, as a receptionist from cruise ships, because the job on the land is very much different, as you know, and I'll make a video about it. Where to look for a job, of course, set for crew is there, so you can use it. The directories are updated. It lists the recruitment pages, it lists the cruise lines, it lists all the agencies, and so it's all there. Maybe you just need to use the email from the agency, whatever is pasted there, so it's updated. It's updated once a month, new information, new article and all this, so you can use the site for crew.com. Okay, let's moving forward. So that's kind of like a way where to look for the jobs and all this. There's the job boards as well, of course. Interview process, and after the interview, okay, this is the basic thing. I'm not going to cover the interview process. You go to the agency or you go directly with the cruise line, usually with the agency, and agencies are better because they work with many cruise lines, so it's easier for you to score the job. After the interview, you're just gonna need to have the passport. That's common sense. It needs to be valid at least 1 year. Visa at least 1 year as well prior you stepping on board, because you never know how long is your contract sometimes. Medical, you need to pass that, of course, and police clearance. It's actually that you don't have any unspent sentence or something, just a primary traffic violations are not going to count. Uniforms, of course, it's like a reception, so for the men it's black shoes, black trousers, and black socks, of course, and white shirts. For the girls as well, the white shirts and skirts or trousers as well. Of course, you need to pass the safety training after all this, after all the interview, after all the documents you get, after you buy all the things, and flight tickets you might need to buy as well, because only some luxury cruise lines actually give you the free tickets. So that's about your cost a little bit as well, and I'm going to speak in another video about the real cost, about all these visas, medicals, and police clearance as well. Right, about the position and the benefits. So the salary, you probably want to know, that's $2,500 US. I actually know two exact salaries, so this is a middle number, and from two companies. I'm not going to tell which ones, but this is just something what you're going to be getting. Of course, it's a little bit more than the receptionist, of course, and it's a step up, and the department is still guest services. So guest services manager, reception manager is going to be in charge of you. You do work like with maritime department, you work with senior officers, but it's usually at the reception. So and I'll mention now that kind of changes the things as well on perspective of the side duties that you need to do. Title, so it can be clearance officer, which is like very common. Hotel admin, that was one company I actually was working for, and they had a hotel admin. Well, it's admin job really. It's back in the days, the reception was actually doing it. Receptionists would have a side duty. It could be lost luggage following up. Somebody lost luggage on airline or something like that, and hotel admin, like the port papers, that would be a receptionist preparing it. But now it's like common. Purser or clearance. Purser's office, as you know, is the people who are in charge on the ships about the money and everything. And of course, the smaller ships, they have the purser's office. It's where the purser's doing more things than just one, and that could be purser clearance. But most commonly, it's going to be a clearance officer, and that's going to be a title. Rank itself is usually 1.5 stripes. That's pretty much from all the 3-4 companies I worked with, and one colleague I just checked as well. In the new company he's working on or worked for, it's 1.5 stripes. You do have the public area access with that, and on big ships that's pretty like, go and eat something and just go in the shop and buy something in tax-free shop. Other benefits, holidays. Okay, the contract length is usually like 4 to 6 months, and the more senior you are, you don't actually spend that much on board. For luxury cruise lines, it's definitely like 4 to 2 ratio, 6 to 2 ratio, and it's usually about that. So this is the contract length itself. You're not going to be doing 9 months contracts like there's for other positions. Health insurance, so yeah, the medical is there. Medical is on board. If they can't make it good, then you just go to the hospital and they check you up and then decide if you remain on board or you need to actually have a break from that. So it's kind of your health, the first institution that's there. Shared cabin. Unfortunately, that's a shared cabin, and 1.5 stripe officers don't really get the private cabin. The new ships have one-person cabin. They share, like, you have a cabin really tiny, very small, to be honest, and they share the shower facilities and bathroom, like toilet-like. It's like, your neighbor can be there and you just close the doors and all that. But it is still shared cabin, and that's almost on all the companies I was, and also I checked with my own office. That's a good one because you might now they actually have their own office as well, so you're going to be alone, and it's going to be your office, so you're working quiet, and that usually comes with the own office. Not always guaranteed, but it does indeed. Uniforms, of course, you get uniforms on duty, all the uniforms there is. With some companies you need to still pay something, like the safety shoes were not there, the white ones, and I had to buy them myself. And all the other ones are pretty much included, and there is unfortunately one company I know, they actually ask you to pay for the uniform, and that's quite a bit, to be honest. Like officer's uniform and all this, evening aviator style shirts and all this. Free meals, of course, that you get. Day off. Reception sometimes gets a day off. Housekeeping is a bit easier to do that. I had the guys, they had the days off. But it's basically what you do, because you need to be there for a clearance for the arriving and departure from all the ports, So early in the morning you need to be up when the ships arrive, and then in late afternoon you actually need to be up and running and doing as well. And if it's a sea day, like ship is not going in a port, you actually have almost a day off. You just come in an office for a couple of hours or something. But that's what my colleagues are doing. Well, I'll say you a little bit about that. So this is a little about the job itself. Okay, there's a little description here. It says primary person in liaison between the ship and local port authorities for maritime passenger related matters. So there's no crew matters, so it's whatever the captain needs to be done or something like that, and port authorities before people can go out. So that comes next. It's like responsible for immigration, customs, and embarkation and disembarkation process. So whenever the ship is in a port or leaving the port, you need to be up there and you need to be doing the part of your job. That's kind of whole thing, but I'm just going to speak about all these duties that you need to do about the ports and when the ship comes in and when the ship leaves. Shifts itself, that's a funny one, because I wrote to my colleague and said, well, do you have actually a schedule? He says, look, yeah, I have it, but I don't really follow it. And you're gonna see why. That's because you need to be actually present for these things and not the other things, So embarkation and boarding day, that's when the people come on board. All the departure paperwork needs to be ready and checked for sailing. Guest travel documents need to be checked if they are in order to board. If there is any issues with the travel documents, then the guest will be denied boarding. So this is embarkation itself. So receptionist don't actually do the embarkation. It happens in the terminals. So, and in terminal you have part-time staff. It's actually does the embarkation duties, like several hours a week, and this comes from a land. You are the one that actually is going to go down there with the IT guys and just make sure all the credit cards are registered, all the documents are ready, and you need to be there in a terminal itself. Debarkation, if at home port, so this is when the people are leaving the cruise. Back's info is sent prior to the arrival through APIS. If at the port middle of the cruise, then it depends on the port of call. So yeah, correct. So you send the information on the day before electronically to the port authorities. There's know which people are going to be coming through, which people are going to be entering the country. When leaving, that's not so much, but when they're coming back, because the ships do a round trip, and it's very hard actually to disembark in the middle, and the cruise ships can't actually do that. They need to bring the people back to the same port they started. It's not always like that, and Europe is the exception, of course. If it's in the middle of port, of course you don't know the port authorities. They can do it different. Like you're gonna see now, arrival at port depends on the port of call, of course. Again, the port authorities do the way they want to do it, and you just need to comply with it. Immigration is a must in order to debark to go ashore. Paperwork is sent in advance through ENOA if authorities come on board. So you send it electronically the documents. If they come on board, then of course immigration paperwork is given to them in person on board. They might come, they might want to check the passports of the crew members, they want to check something else. They come just a meeting room with the pastries and a hot coffee and a hot tea, and that's about it. They spend some time. Sometimes you just invite them actually for the lunch in a restaurant itself. So that happens very often, like a buffet style normal restaurant. Departure from port. All packs shall be on board on time. If not, there will be missing sailing. Of course, the ships don't really wait. It's like a bus. It's gone. Last but not least important, if the bridge to be informed when the embarkation is complete and that all the sailors and ship personnel are clear for sailing. So port authority is clear. You can sail away, and that's also you need to wait for port authorities there. And you need to be up and running for that thing. Guest debark may happen due to many reasons. Common ones are medical, GCP, emergency, or late back on board. Yeah, well, if you're late and back on board, the staff captain is not going to like you, and he can't keep the ship in the port all the time. And it's a very big ship, and at the same time the petrol costs a lot of money, and it usually doesn't wait very long for a guest. So this is embarkation. You need to make sure the papers are there. Some companies get reception running up to the cabins, checking for port documents, for travel documents like passport, ID, because when you go ashore in a port, you don't take the travel documents, you just take your key card like a guest does, and you check in and check out with the scan for it. So these are debarkations, and that's what the clearance officer actually has to do. Coming still before moving forward, it can be situations like this is easy in Caribbean, so you probably cruise port, world's biggest cruise ports are all Miami and Florida, and that's kind of like you do 7-day cruise one way, and the 7-day it comes back, and then 7-day cruise on the other eastern or western cruises, which are a different port, like every second week. But it also can involve Europe. It can also work like Russia. You need to do immigration there as well. And what happened was, in worst case scenario would happen, they asked us to collect all the passports, because we were in Iceland and we were coming back to England, and the English authorities actually boarded the ship already. They already boarded it in Iceland, so when the ship was coming in, like 1.5 day sailing or something like that, so they checked the crew passports, some of them. They checked also the guests, and we had to collect all the passports, and we had to stamp them, all of them. So it's 2,000 passports, and we needed to stamp them and hand them out, and they present the the guests to the port authorities. So this is like the worst scenario case. If it goes around the world, the cruises, then yeah, different ports, different countries, they're gonna do it different way. It's gonna be a lot more for you to know and a lot more to learn. And as a receptionist, I was involved in all these things. If there's a need for the crew member to disembark, then the crew office will take care of it. Correct. So if it's a bigger ship, and of course you have a clearance officer, so you only do your jobs, to be honest. Because there's lots of positions, lots of staff, lots of people, and there's a crew office. On a big ship, you can probably have crew office manager. Then you have like another 3 employees or 4 of them. They do like office hours, and if there's things with a crew member, then they go there and the crew office does it. You of course speak to the guys as well, just to know what's going on, just to be informed, but the crew is not going to be your responsibility. But that may actually change on the smaller ships, like luxury cruise lines, where the office is small. It's called purser's office, and then you have maybe also responsibility not only for the guests' embarkation, debarkation, but also for the crew movement, like they're leaving, coming, and you need to write the manifests and lists of the people on board and whatever there is. But it's usually not going to be responsible for manifest items to be offloaded from the vessel and declaration of the guest goods. Yeah, well, there can be some offloading or whatever there is from the ship. Not usually very often there, but it's more like with the guest goods, because the guests can come on board, they can buy tax-free stuff and they can bring it back home. There's no problem with that, but they can't take them out in the port as well. It does happen that somebody comes and visit their relatives, and they have some things, new things, like in a bag, usually, like, you know, they're passing over a suitcase of some goods they bought back at home. So it happens very time, and reception usually does it. Like, receptionist is gonna do it. Clearance officer can do it as well. But it's usually reception, but the clearance officer is going to be informed anyway. There's some paperwork to be done, and then you take that person with the bag, the guest. You know, you take them to the port authorities, show them what's in a bag, and they usually say, okay, well, there is like 10-15. Let's say closing. Closing is not 20%. Closing added value tax is like 10%, and then they're gonna say, okay, this value in a bag is about $300. 10% is gonna $30. Then can you take it to your friend or family member on the land and pass it over? The very last thing I wrote here, so ensure that the necessary guests are presented to authorities at the end of the cruise. Yeah, well, okay, if the guest spends like these amounts, you need to declare like 10,000, you know, and they buy they buy something very expensive on board, like, I don't know, a couple of luxury watches or a couple of paintings and everything. So they need to be presented because they're bringing in a value of more than 10,000. For art, it's actually been sent through on a land, but if the account is so much, so that's what it is. It may be also a security issue. I don't know, maybe some illegal substances found in somebody's cabin, or they're suspicious about it, that it might be. Unfortunately, yeah, well, that's your job. Sometimes it does. Clearance officer usually does this. They block them on the system, and then basically you transfer to the waiting room for a custom border, CBP, Customs and Border Patrol officers. They actually go through the case or whatever there is, and it might be breaking law, doesn't really pay even if you're on a cruise or something like that. So mainly it's really declaration or something like that. So I covered, yeah, this is embarkation, debarkation. So this is what it is. This is usually your point to do. You can go out in the middle. Usually you need to be actually on a call, which is not pleasant, but you have your own office, so you can go out. There's no problem. Somebody, my supervisor can take over, like, you know, there's an emergency or something, and they actually know the clearance officer job, like, you know. You can go out and all this, and then you have your own schedule, as I mentioned, pretty much. And this is embarkation. The documents are ready. People ready to come on board. People are ready to leave. The ship is ready to leave. Port authorities. So, this is usually what's the job for the clearance officer. Additional duties. Well, I have to tell you, yeah, the phone duty, that was actually from one company. For 2 companies, they had the phone duty, but they needed to do their own job. So they had like shift, and they had few hours there. and that can be like a couple of hours on the phone when you're doing your paper, your own thing, but you're not outside with the guest. However, relieve front office staff from meetings. That happened because, as I mentioned, they love the receptionist, because reception manager is actually in charge of it. So they might actually ask you for your help to cover this, the desk. You go on a meeting, all the department, all the guest services, and you get somebody like clearance officer actually filling that in. So they have their own money, they can do the exchange, they can speak to the guests, they know the things what there is, and this is why the guest service managers really love to have the receptionist from the cruise ships actually doing the clearance officer. That's like a step up. So relief from the front office staff, but that's like an hour, like 2 hours, something like that. The film duty is also like, so you have your own schedule. This kind of a promotion is interesting. You can think out of the box. You can manage yourself, and if it's a sea day, you actually have almost a day off, to be honest. Well, this kind of really covers the job of the clearance officer. I hope it's useful. Of course, I asked my friends to help me out with the job description and everything. Site for Crew is always there as well, so if you're looking for a job, if you want to go down the list for all the cruise lines, apply one by one. I'm sure you're going to make it eventually, like I did. You're going to get at least 1 or 2 offers, then you see what it is. I hope this video was useful, that they described the job, and of course, so as always, thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.